Hey guys. Hey Peter. Yeah. Not sure I'm particularly helpful today, but here we are. Scruffy. Been at work all day. Still in my worksheet. Sawdust all over me. Look. Different colour under the top to bottom. It's sort of got a bit of a blowout, but not very ambitious, to be honest. Anyway. You could do with the brush too. 3D printers going. Jobs need to be done. I did promise to do some sketch work on this plane project before this week happened, but it didn't, so here we are. We're getting pretty well finished. There's only a couple of bits left to go. There's the cap. It looks something like that. It's an interesting piece. And this lever here, which goes up and down with this knob and moves the knobs on the top, which moves the blade up and down. So that's where we're at. We'll see how we go with it. I don't think there'll be a stream next Tuesday. Probably not a Wednesday one too. We'll see how we go. See where I am actually on Wednesday night or Tuesday night. No idea yet. Probably in Queensland. Somewhere. Don't know. I've got a bit happening this weekend. I'll talk about that tomorrow night. Anyway, we might as well get started on this. So onshape, we're in the menu, which is owned by me. Things that we're working on is this one. Now, bizarrely, Restream doesn't blow up this cursor, and I don't know how to fix that. I've been trying for a little while to sort that out. But it doesn't do it because Macintosh does blow it up. There we go. That's what we want. So looking at this sketch, sketch one on this plan is here. Click edit on that one, and it's on the right plane. We could probably zoom that out a bit. And this is just below the plane line here where it needs to be. There's no cows in the background at the moment, which is really good. And looking at that, we'll grab a ruler because my guessing tonight isn't really isn't as good as it could be. It's not a very good ruler either, just quietly. But I reckon centre to centre here, the centre on this curve here and the centre of this curve is about 25 millimetres. If we were to put a measurement on there, that's 35 or 25. That's where it should be. And if we draw a circle here, I was going to have this done. Something like this. I reckon this needs to be about 13 millimetres, something like that. Our other one there is about 10 and a half, something like that. So looking at it, it might be 14, but I think, oh, that looks a bit small. Let's go 14. Something like that. Now these here, if we delete these two that we put in here last week, what we want is a tangent between here and here. So we start with a line. See the little, I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm second guessing everything, but there's a little control there. We'll click that, which says tangent. It's a little circle on a line. Not ideal, but that'll do. And we can mirror that. Make that one the mirror line, turns yellow. And this one. And then we could trim this piece out here, and that gives us roughly the shape of that particular lever. There's another hole there, and we don't know what size that is, but we do think that that's probably comes back in there about, if we measure that. Probably 1 millimetre, something like that. And there's a cutout in there in that diameter. So that's a little bit behind the centre. If we go down here to where we've got a rear adjuster knob, have a look at this. We want to know what dimension this is. So we find our measure line. Maximum distance, minimum distance. None of that's particularly useful. What we want is this distance to this distance. Maybe this is how we do it. Not really feeling it's not going to work. Not really feeling on shape this week. Seems to be the way it is. Anyway, we'll get this finished. There we go. That's a problem. We'll click off that. We'll close that. Good theory. Didn't work. Let's have a look at the sketch instead. It's the second easiest way to do that. It's the wrong sketch. This sketch here. N for normal. And it's 4 millimeters diameter, that it says 4 millimeters there. So that'll do the job nicely. All these sketches were taken. A lot of commands are not very intuitive. No, maybe not. It's more intuitive than, say, AutoCAD or Inventor. Anyway, this is 4 millimeters diameter. So let's go with put a measurement on that. It's the wrong one. Four. That says it's 4 millimeters diameter. I'm guessing that there's probably a little bit more gap in than that. Let's go with 4. And we'll put a cutout in that. Make a construction line across here. So the yellow one lines up, which means that probably we're perpendicular to that. See, we've got a little perpendicular. There we go. Can we see that? Got a little perpendicular restraint there, which is a little square and a rectangle. And if we draw this one out from that point there where they intersect, that gives us the parallel line. We can mirror that easily. Mirror line doesn't have to run all the way through. So that's what that looks like, sort of. We can make that into sheet metal. Sheet metal model. We want to convert sketch 1. Extrude. Sketch curves to extrude is sketch 1. 1.6 millimeters thick. We'll try thicken. Why does that do that? Only thicken that piece? Good question. Very good question there. I'm doing battle with this Macintosh thing as well, and I apologise for that. Anyone who said it was a good idea probably shouldn't have. No, it was an excellent idea. It's just a matter of learning to use it. Anyway, let's extrude that. There's the problem. Problem is that for some reason this sketch has a hole in it. It hasn't turned dark. So sketch diagnostic profile inspector. Loose ends is 4. If we use that, it's a very useful feature that's fairly new. What we're seeing is that there's a gap here. See, they've turned red. Hey, Mark. So that's the profile inspector. Sketch 1, it hasn't turned, but somewhere there we can zoom in and we can blow that up. You see, we can zoom right in there and we can find that those two don't quite add up. Right, we can do that. But in a complicated sketch, what we do is this little thing here, sketch diagnostic tools. And that gives us constraint manager and a profile inspector. If we click the profile inspector, it shows us exactly where that problem is. So this one here, for some reason, is left over. We'll delete that. And we'll extend this one, which is X, or we can click the button. There we go, let's fix that. And now it'll turn into a sheet metal model, no problems at all. How bizarre. So sheet metal model. We want to extrude that from the sketch. Sketch to extrude. Symmetrical across the center. Thicken is what we need. 1.6 millimeters thick. We don't need to bend it. We can put in material here if we want, and that'll give us our K factor and everything for bending. We probably don't need that. We'll put in relief if we need to. That's what we want to do. And there's our piece. We can edit the appearance. So we can make it grey sheet metal like that. We can edit it, rename it. So we'll call that adjuster lever. There's something we haven't put on this. I've actually got a new mouse, which is pretty amazing, and it's actually got the right click enabled, which isn't an actual Macintosh feature, but I made it work. So this hasn't got, we're going to set in this, we'll set this up, but it hasn't got any way of adjusting that. Here we go, that goes in here. So if we insert that in our assembly, we're on our assembly now. Depth adjustment lever. Adjustment lever. if we insert it, because we used a derived off the original piece, that should be in exactly the right spot. And so it is almost. Except that it's a little bit off center. So no, this actually lines up. It's on the right spot. It's this pin that's off center. We'll zoom in. We'll have a look at that. So it's this pin here. See, that one. Let's put a fasten. Let's fasten that there. So we'll put a mate there and a mate there and fasten that in place. We'll look and see how much is sticking out the other end, and it's not really ideal. Another thing is, if we look at the back of it here, it's not straight. Why is that so? It's because this angle here is not straight, so we really want to set it up on this one. Let's start again. I might move this one out too. We might set this one up first to the Revolute mate on here, there, on the center of that. We're going to offset that in the offset Z 0.8 because 1.6 millimeters thick. Guess everyone can hear me. Anyway, that pulls that in the middle, and that should turn on that nicely. So what we need to do is set it up on this hole here in the middle, which is parallel, not this one, which has got a taper. We're going to fasten this one, and we want to make connector there, and there, and we didn't get this one there. We need some offset, so we'll look at the top of that exactly, zoom that in, offset that. Blue line is a Z, so 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 3.5. 3.6, 3.4. And it's not quite right. It's a 2 millimeter gap. So probably this piece of tin is a little bit narrow. It's also a little bit short if we have a look at this. Look at that. Maybe our knob's a little bit narrow, a little bit small, or maybe we've got something wrong. Anyway, first job is to go back and increase the thickness of this to 2 millimeters. So there's a little bit of messing around here. Edit our sheet metal model to 2 millimeters. That brings that a little bit thicker, and we'll have a look at our assembly again. And it interferes there. So our last mate adjuster is there. We'll edit that. That looks pretty good. Something's not quite right. Very interesting. That looks like about right there, but this hook doesn't work with this. It's short. What I think is that this screw is too far that way. Let's move this a couple of millimeters. So we can do that pretty straightforward. If we go back here to the base plate, which is this piece, something stuck on my bench here is not helping anything. This here, this extrusion, sketch 5. If we edit this, top here of the sketch, and zoom that out. We'll move our mouse up there and zoom this in. Let's call this 13 millimeters. No. 11. Call this 8 millimeters. Try that. Something funny there, but we'll see. See, what's happened is that we've got this piece here intersects this screw. Maybe we just didn't notice that before. We'll look at our assembly again, and that should all update. Getting a little bit closer. I think it could go another 2 millimeters, another millimeter anyway, and that could be a little bit bigger. So we'll go back here to our base plate. Find sketch 5, edit that. We'll move that a little bit further. And because everything else is linked, that should just sort itself out. It's loading it up. There we go. Very close. Look more like it. I think this 1 millimeter here was probably a mistake, and that's why it looks a bit funny. So we'll go back and fix that. And the beautiful thing about CAD drawing is that you can go back and fix problems without redrawing everything. Now, I'm going to make another an addition here. Where I said 15 here, I'm going to put, where I put 14, I'm going to make that 15, which is increase the diameter of this, which probably gives us more of a shape that we need. There we go. That looks pretty good to me. So we need to set this up so that when you spin this up and down, that lever goes up and down. That's where we need to be. That's the next job. Sawdust down my back. So we use a tangent mate or a slider. We use a tangent mate, which is this one. Face, edge, or vertex, which is this one. And face, edge, and vertex, which is in this one. We don't want that. I think I've done something wrong there. There. Mate is not consistent. Let's edit that up. So for some reason it says mate is not consistent. So that one. We want that one. Ah, there we go. We want this one, don't we? Because we clicked the wrong one. Let's try that. Now that works. So the two have got to line up. So theoretically, if we animate that, so there's that one there. It's not that one. It's that one, is it? I wasn't going to be messing around with all this today. I've got to be in the mood to do animations. We've got to select a mate. That's where we are. Mate to animate. There we go. We're going to go through this in a bit more. A bit more depth. No, we're gonna go through this in a bit more depth later. But anyway, that's set up, and you should be able to. We should be able to slide this down. There we go. We can do that just by moving it. We give a hold of that and give it a rub. There we go. So that works without setting up the animation. And it does the things that it needs to do within a certain range. So that works. We're going to put a little knob on here to work on the blade. So if we go here, the blade goes there. And it's got little grooves in the bottom, and the knob's got to basically move up and down on the grooves. We go back to our depth adjustment lever. A bit of a look at this. Now, the easy way to do this, right, is just to use the derive function. Select our part studio, put our blade in. And of course, we didn't draw that exactly right in relation to that piece, which is a problem. Let's come back to bite us. So we can't do that. Take that back. We can, though. I think there is a way to do that. Drive that. Select Part Studio Blade. Blade. There we go. We'll put a sketch on this. I think if we do it this way, put a sketch on the right. And we do this. Make a section view. There we go. That's the section of that. And if we use the use function, turn that off. We've got a couple of notches here that give us basically the parameters of how that works, or the coordinates. I think it's it's like a gear. And the distance between is 3.2 millimeters. So that's our pitch circle on the gear is 3.2. Now that's an interesting little piece. We can turn off our section view. So what we need here this, we're going to get the measure again. It's behind my face, and I keep saying that. It's 1.5 millimeters deep and 3.2 millimeters center. if we put this in the assembly, we'll notice that it's a little bit low. If we move this up. So there's about, I think we can move it all the way up without setting some constraints on that. I put constraints on this just roughly, and it's obviously in the wrong spot. But there's a little gear that runs in there. Draw a gear for a rack. Yes, exactly. Peter's got it. So let's have a look here. Up here somewhere. Let's drop down here. We've got spur gear. Circular pitch. Look at that. Here we go. Circular pitch 3.2. 3.2 millimeters. 3.2 millimeters. We can put a circular pitch gear there. Pitch circle diameter. You're going to have to play around with this a bit. Sketch vertex for center. Can't do that. It's only 2 millimeters anyway. No. 3.2. I already changed that. Ten teeth looks like it's about it. Go 12. 3.2. 12.233 diameter. It's not a perfect gear, but that's going to be a pretty good start. Three millimeter center ball. Okay, 4 millimeters. We'll save that and make it won't hurt. Don't need origin position, I don't think. Something like that. Not particularly useful round there on that plane. But we can work with that. We click transform and that. And transform by rotate that. And the axis is no, that's not what we want to do. That's what we want to do. That just rotates it that way. Let's try again. There we go. Sketch vertex for centre. That's what we've got. It's not 2 millimeters thick. But we're starting to look like it might be part of something like what we need. Let's keep going. Edit that. And extrude depth. We need 2 millimeters. There we go. That's 2 separate parts there, but it's very close. Now, I reckon that this gap here needs to line up exactly in parallel to this. So, that, or in perpendicular to this plane here and this plane here need to be perpendicular to the centre of the tooth. So, we can do that easy enough. We'll transform that into a transform, rotate. Our axis is there, will do, whatever. 10 degrees, 15, getting close. So we're going to guess it. 17 degrees. Looks pretty good. Now, just to leave it, we'll close that out. And we've got this gear left. If we draw a box around this, if we sketch this on the right plane, if we click right here and put a sketch on the right plane, and we can do something like this, I reckon. There's only 2 teeth. And extrude that. Remove. Mode scope is this one. And we need to reverse it so it comes back the other way. And that chops that out like that. And we've got 2 teeth left. We turn the adjuster lever on. Probably pretty good. That's what we need. We can do a union, a Boolean union, and join that one to that one. Except that didn't work for some reason. It's a sheet metal. It's an active sheet metal model. That's why. So let's do this. We'll get rid of that. We'll finish the sheet metal model. It's no longer active. And now drag that down further. And that does it beautifully. Now, these little rabbit ears don't want to be that tall. They only need to be 1.5 millimeters tall. This is 10.5. And 3 is 13.5. So if we put another sketch on this surface, a centre point arc off this centre here, something like this. And we make that diameter, we'll call it 1 millimetre on top of that. So that's 6.25 is there, something like that. We'll finish our sketch like this. And we'll trim that, shortcuts M. And extrude that out and remove it. What do you think? Looks like it might work. So that's that done. We could probably check that. And that part's disappeared. Why has that part disappeared? Because we renamed it. That's what we did. See what we've got here. It's part 3. If that's what we want, but we can come back here to our assembly. Adjust the lever. Has an error. Let's delete that and start again then. Insert. And of course, all our wrong one. Because we've deleted that part, all our mates have deleted too. So we'll put a tangent mate back in. That surface, we decided, and that surface. Didn't work. Wrong one. Let's try this one. let's mess that up. Got these the wrong way around is where we are. Face of primary axis is this one, and this one is here. That's better. There we go. And this one and this one are not fastened together. So we need to do a new fasten mate on that one. We'll where it's very useful. To actually name things. If we hide that, we can very simply put a fasten mate in the center of that and the center of that. And we can unhide that one. Don't have to sort this out. We've done everything in the wrong order. That right? Wrong one. Come on, we had it before. Put that face there. Come on. That face there. And that face there. Oh, this face here. No. We've got a fasten mate there somewhere and not an actual, that's where the problem is. Anyway, let's got that sorted. What's the time like? It's 8:30. We've been an hour on this. And I don't know how much further closer we are to actually having this working. What we don't have, there we go. What we don't have is a revolute mate on that pin and that brace. So when we looked at, it's on the plate there. We mucked that up. Animation's probably for homework. Anyway, I can have that sorted. No problems at all. Just got to sit down and work that one out. And it's a bit late. It's Tuesday. It's nearly Christmas. But that's in there, and it looks like it might work without too many problems. We get that working up and down. There's only one more place to do. What are we going to do? We're going to sit down and actually make the final piece or not? And that's the cap line, which looks something like this. Have a look at it. It's a fairly complicated part in itself, and it's probably worth a couple of hours to draw to make it up. It's got a keyhole slot. It's got some funny little bumps in here and a little tensioner that locks down. It's got a patent number on it. It's sort of, there's some interesting geometry in this. I'm not sure I'm going to tackle it. It's got like a textured finish that would give Chirpy nightmares if he's going to cast one. I'm not going to tackle it tonight. It's got a fancy curve in here, like it's not flat through the bottom here. And it's got a curve in here. And it's got, like it's hollow through here. It's got a pin in the center, and it's got that little piece there that locks it in place. So that when you sit it down onto the, we'll put this together. When you sit this down over the keyhole slot there with the screw, you can lock this in place with this. This locks it in place, sort of, depending on the position of the screw. So yes, there's a bit of work in that. Anyway, we're very, very close to having that done. We'll have a bit of a look at what else we're working on. What am I working on? There's 1,000 jobs that I should do, and this is going to make me seasick with this new camera, whatever I've done here. I'm going to turn that off. There we go. Yeah, we'll have a bit more of a look. I think we're getting on very well with this. I think it's worth finishing now we got this far. But another episode to do that cap iron, and that'll about do us. Don't know, what are we doing? We've done a bit of work on these. The ones that I had I weren't real happy with. These are the legs for the little lathe on the donation box. This, I kind of like this shape. It's got a bit of a flare at the bottom, and it's sort of a bit more organic. And as the printer noise you heard before was me printing this, and we'll put it together. It's got to be printed in 2 halves because there's a flare on each end, and you can't really print this end flat. Oh my gosh, I'm sleepy. It's nearly bedtime for me. So that's, we're going to cast them in aluminium to make the lathe, one on each end of the little treadle lathe. We'll put a wheel on here yet. We've also got to have a hand wheel for the front of the donation box. That's the assembly we want. Right. There's a hand wheel goes on here somewhere in the center. or just this side of the centre, which operates all these things. Whether I make a round wheel like a sewing machine wheel with a steel plate on it in timber with a handle, sort of 8 inches diameter, or whether I make just a crank, and whether we make an aluminium wheel with like leading edge spokes, like curved spokes, all round. Whether I just whether I just make a handle plate behind it. That says rotate this direction, or whether you put an arrow on the front of the wheel. I was going to have that done for this weekend to get one cast, but it hasn't happened. So if I get the 2 legs done for the lathe, that'd be a very good start. And we can start messing around getting that together. Anyway, that's me, I think. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate you sticking around. I know boring as batshit, really. It's not a particularly exciting stream tonight. I will get my crap together at some point, and we'll do a bit more of a in-depth stream at some point. It might not be next week, I don't think, because I won't have my big screen up there. Fancier looking is nice, but longer to design. Yeah, something fancy is what it needs. It's a sort of a feature. I'm thinking something along the lines of a I don't know, popcorn machine or something like that. Sort of. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But apart from that, and thanks, Peter. I'm sort of feeling like I'm not really achieving very much. This is the original lathe legs. This is what I was messing with to start with. Still got a sketch on there. This is what I've started with, and they're a bit boring. And we've gone to this one, which is a little bit nicer, I think. Anyway, shouldn't be any more difficult to cast. Anyway, I might call it a night and see how we go. And thanks, guys. There will be a workshop live stream tomorrow night, which will be a bit more exciting. There's stuff happening. Discuss Christmas break and stuff. See what happens. And hopefully I'll have a pattern for this ready to cast. Go down and finish it now. So anyway, I'm out. Thanks, guys.